In this video, folks, I wanted to demo an add-on from the New Visions Cloud Lab folks. It's called Sheet Spider, and what it does for you, if you're an administrator, say, and you have a group of teachers. I have a list here of 4 different teachers, and those teachers have, just in this example, 10 different students each, and you're wanting those teachers or counselors or whatever to uh, give these students 4 different tests or a test 4 or 5 different times, and you want to be able to get that data returned to you. So what SheetSpider does is creates a sheet for each one of these uh, users and teacher name. For teacher 1, it's going to create a sheet, and it's going to make all the rows that you see with the students in teacher 1, and it's also going to include their email address, because that's how we're going to share that sheet with them. So let's get started and see what it can do for you. We're going to run Sheet Spider. I've already installed it. Sheet Spider is an add-on that I went to the get add-ons and found the Sheet Spider and installed it. So I'm going to launch it on this particular sheet, and we're going to get started. First step is going to take the original sheet, which is this sheet, and it's going to create new sheets just like this one. Let's get started. So the sheet we're going to use is sheet 1. And what column do you want to use to create your new spreadsheets? Well, I want to use this teacher name column, and let's go ahead and grab that. And next, what folder do you want your spreadsheets to live in? We can select a folder, and in this case, I think I'm going to use this folder called Teacher Grades. Go ahead and select that one, select. And I'm going to want to add some optional text here, teacher name plus maybe this is the year or maybe a semester or something. Next. And 4 new spreadsheets will be created because it's finding 4 different usernames in the teacher name, and we'll go ahead and create. And then Sheet Spider is creating a new tab in my sheet and is creating all of my users, and I can close that. That was all successful, nothing failed. And what we can see now is here's my original sheet. Here's my Sheet Spider manager sheet. You would never want to delete this one. And then what we're going to do with this is you can see teacher 1, 2, 3, 4. It's given it a title, teacher 2 2022, and it's also pulled in the URL for that. Let's open that and see what it looks like. So basically it's just it's a copy of the data. Now notice the formatting. If you take a look back at my original sheet, I had made those bold, and I had frozen the first row, and I had clicked here and set up the spacing I wanted on that. Notice teacher 2 doesn't have any of that. So the first time a teacher opens this, they can go ahead and fix that. The way I would do that is click in this top left cell, and I would put my cursor between the two, between any of the cell column headers, and double click. And what that does is makes the space that's necessary for each column. And then I'd probably freeze the row by grabbing that little line there when it turns to the hand, as you could see there, and freeze that first row. And then I may even decide to make that bold. And then I have the ability to start using this sheet. So that's what the teacher gets. Now let's go back to Sheet Spider, and let's go ahead and run this again. Let's run Sheet Spider a second time. The first time you launch it, it creates the sheets. Now the second time we get some different options. We can push new data, retrieve data, but the very first thing I need to do is share my sheets. So we don't have any editors. We're going to share this with the teacher email. and we're going to send them a notification. Go ahead and share. Okay, so those have all been shared. We see that over here. We can see which people are editors, and I can go ahead and highlight these, double click. So I can see right now that these have all been shared to the appropriate teachers. Now let's pause for a moment and see what it's going to look like for that teacher. Notice I've switched to this teacher one account, teacher one, and teacher one has a spreadsheet that's being shared from the administrator, in that case me. I'm going to open that up, and as you can see, teacher one can see the data that's here, and I'm going to cancel this off. We don't want to, I understand, cancel that off. So you can see teacher one's sheet. Now, if I were to come back here and take a look at teacher one, I opened teacher two sheet, that's why. So if I come back here to teacher one sheet, notice if that teacher decides to freeze the top row, highlight, make bold, click here, double click the spacing. Let's go ahead and double click the headers there. Let's select all that, double click the headers, and that's our spacing. So if we come back to our sheet spider, we'd launch teacher two. Let's go ahead and launch the teacher one sheet. And as you can see, because teacher one made those changes, we can see that. So teacher one has access to the sheet, and so does the administrator who created it. So the great part about the way this works is this. I'm teacher one, and let's say I've given this test, and real quickly, just to get some test scores in here, I'm going to do equal rand between, and I'm going to go ahead and put in a low score of 65 and a high score of 98. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm basically going to drag that down, and I'm going to drag it across. So I've got a set of scores now. And you know what I might do is just go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to also paste that into teacher two just so we can see how this is going to work. I'll go to teacher two, I'll paste in these random scores, and then maybe the teachers got some comments. I'm teacher two. I could switch back here. I'm teacher one now, and I could switch back here and say yes. Whatever the teachers might doing, I think, and so forth. So as you can see, now we've collected a little bit of data from these teachers. So let's see what happens next with the sheet spider. The other thing that it can do, if I come back to my sheet spider sheet and take a look at sheet one, let's say that teacher one gets a new student. So let me insert a row here for teacher one. I'm going to insert a new row. Notice we'll go ahead and do that right here. And then this is going to be teacher one again. So we'll go ahead and copy that down. And notice that made that teacher two. So I'll leave that as teacher one. And teacher one, and then we need to grab a new student. Pasted a new student in there, Jamie Carey. So now what we want to do is take a look at the data that the teachers have selected. So let's run Sheet Spider again, because I've added a new row to teacher one. Let's come back over and look at teacher one. Teacher one has 10, if we count here, there's a count of 10. And we want to make sure that we can see that there's a new student in here. So coming back to my Sheet Spider, I'm going to run Sheet Spider again. And this time I'm going to push data because I've modified my original sheet. So I'm going to push new data, and it's going to run through all of these sheets. In the column, we're going to compare column student name because that's what's changed. And let's go ahead and push. And let's see what happens when we take a look over here at teacher one and see if Jamie Carey has been added. Let's close this out. And you can see we have teacher one successfully pushed some rows out there. And we can look even on this one and see Jamie Carey has has been added. Let's go ahead and give her some random scores. Now the next step would be to run SheetSpider once again, extensions, SheetSpider, launch. And this is the really powerful part, I think, for administrators. So now what we're going to do is retrieve data. And what retrieve data is going to do is going to go to all of those sheets. It's going to create a new sheet called return data. And it's going to pull all that data from all 4 of those sheets. Let's see what that looks like. Pulling in from sheet teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, teacher 4. There we go. We can close that out. Here's my return data. So as that data changes, and now notice this did not bring back a formula. That's kind of important to know. It's not pulling in formula. It's just pulling the data only. So if your sheet you were sharing had some kind of formulas, that's not being pushed or retrieved. Now I could take and do some work on this. I could double click and I could grab the header row and do this and bold that. So there's my data that I've gotten from some of the teachers who've submitted the data. Tool that lets you create new sheets, push data, pull data, and share these sheets and get the data back from your teachers.